Someone's calling to you.
Come on, let me sleep. We
Birol?
start like
Hot-blooded guy.
very hot.
Do you remember your first embryo creation?
Come on, what I should do, and
But I never thought it's that complicated.
you are young.
Well, we're already living in the future, right?
Learn how to work with your hands.
For the future generations,
It's crazy to say it, but yeah.
it's a very interesting insight.
Slowly, very calm.
Pure magic.
It's hard to become human.
Who wish to be an embryologist?
I like to do fertilization. It's unforgettable.
What is IVF?
That's all.
Hey, Ola, how's it going? Kalispera.
Kalispera, hello, all is okay, and how are you?
Very well, thank you. Tell me, you're in Greece right now. Which city?
Yes, I'm in Athens now. For a few while, we will see.
How do you like the city?
Very hot.
Too hot, probably.
Yeah. Блин, сейчас я успокоюсь.
It's cool, it's cool. You know, the last time I probably told you already, the last time I went to Saloniki, I had a sunstroke. So I felt dizzy in the middle of the streets. It was like, I believe it was plus 47 degrees above Celsius. I don't know, it's too high for me, you know? I'm that, I'm not that hot-blooded guy. More like a Scandinavian vibes, I believe. Ola, thank you for taking this time with me today. I appreciate your time. I know tomorrow you're leaving. Your flight is tomorrow, and you're really short on time. I won't bother you for too much. Just wanna go with you through a few questions. And my first question is about the Russian invasion that is happening. Very unfortunate and terrible. Just tell me, where were you on the 21st of February, and what were your feelings about this?
Okay. I was in Kiev, but actually, I think my story will begin from 23 of February, because you know, we was expecting war, but honestly, I was not believing that it will start. So it's hard to explain how you can be shocked, even if you expect something like this. So we was preparing in lab the day before, because so many patients wanted to move their embryos from Kiev to a much more safe place in Lviv, for example, because of this news, because of like USA was saying that attack is probably will be soon, and so on. So we was packing like our nitrogen tanks, and I went to bed and to sleep very late this day. So in the morning, I was just I heard the ring of my telephone, and was thinking, come on, let me sleep just a little bit more, 10 or 15 minutes. And then I just checked my chat with colleagues, and everyone was writing like, we heard the explosions, like the war is start. And
You did heard the explosions. You heard the explosions yourself.
No, because you see, like when I sleep, I cannot hear anything. And
that's sleep. That's called that sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And I live in the Kiev neighborhood, so I didn't heard it. After this message, I take my backpack. It was packed already with all documents and such stuff. And I was planning to go to work, because we have a lot of embryos in the lab. We should to do something with them, to freeze or whatever we will decide. So I went to work very fast. And when I was just going out my flat, I heard the explosion, and it was like crazy scary, unbelievable. So I went, found my car, and I saw just road was stopped with traffic. And only reason that I came to work that I live in the neighborhood, and I was going to the city center, not out of.
Which district you were living in? Is it the Boulogne, maybe, by chance?
No. I'm living in a small village, Krukivshchina, near Kiev.
Oh,
So I
all right,
live in
all right,
neighborhood,
all
and
right.
yeah. So it was different direction, like in Kiev, not out. And we just, I think in 2 or 3 hours we freeze every embryos that we had in our incubators. It's approximately, I think, 20 patients we had
Which is a
during
lot.
cultivation.
Which is a lot.
Yeah. I never freeze so fast. And we had a few egg collections a day. We cannot like cancel it or not to do it because it will be dangerous for patients. So we also collect eggs and we freeze it all. And it was one patient from France. We finished a collection. She wake up after this medical sleep, and she was saying like, when I can come back and do another trial to have a little bit more eggs. And you're saying, come on, the war is start. And yeah.
Can you believe how calm that person is? Super calm. Like, yeah, that's great. And where are you now? You're now in Greece, and you moved to Europe since then.
Like our chief of the lab, Birol, and he
Birol?
started like he started to evacuate all the embryos, even the day, and you was helping him actually.
I did.
So some tanks, some dewars with embryos was moved to Lviv, and then he made a decision to move them to Slovakia. In a few while, like in 2 weeks, I joined him in Slovakia. So we was like keeping all these tanks, filling them with nitrogen, and so on and so on. So just because of war, we do not have like so much work in Ukraine in our IVF field. So that's why I embryologist Europe, just to have work and to support like Ukraine and our military and like this.
Oля, you told about egg collection and freezing. Can you tell to the audience a little bit, just generally speaking, what is IVF? What is in vitro?
It's like fertilization, not in natural conditions, but as we say, like in glass, in vitro in glass, in petri dish. Like for now, we can stimulate a woman with some hormones, so we can collect in one time, for example, 15 or 12 or 20 eggs, and we perform this fertilization and cultivate the embryos. And our main goal to have a good embryos and achieve pregnancy for people who want to get pregnant and have kids. So that's all.
Yeah, that's a very good explanation. And Oля, what is the difference between oocyte and embryo?
I will be also easier. Like oocyte is just very specific, like specified cell. How to say? It gamete cell. So we like women.
Reproductive cell, right?
Yeah, reproductive. We, and I say we, like women, produce the cell every month, and it can be fertilized or can be not. So doesn't matter. But embryos, it's already like fertilized egg, and it's hard to say that it's already new life, but yeah, probably it's a new life because after fertilization, it's already start to develop a new human. And we call it embryos because in like biological meaning, like the start of a human being till 10 weeks of gestation is called embryos. Then it becomes fetus. But we work in the lab, we work only with embryos from first to 5th or 6th day of development. That's all, just 5-6 days.
What equipment exactly are you using for this process? So you mentioned Petri dish and also liquid nitrogen. What else?
You just every equipment that you use, or like, of course, we let's begin with doctors, because doctor need to prepare patient and this, for example, woman to stimulate with hormones. It's just simple injection. They might, but to collect eggs, they need to use like ultrasound device, like to make aqua scans. So just to know where to collect these eggs, where the ovary inside of the woman's are. It's very actually it's very easy procedure and it's very safe, but still they need this ultrasound machine, they need some medical needles and so on. And when they give us so-called follicular fluid from ovary, so we search for eggs under the microscope. We have a lot of different microscopes to search the eggs, to do fertilization. It's a different type of microscopes. We have micro manipulators to do fertilization. We have different device to freeze and vitrify embryos, like some carriers for this embryos. So you will not search this embryo in just in liquid nitrogen and thinking, oh my God, where it is, but you have special straw and you know actually the address of this embryo inside a special tanks, dewars. And we have incubators. So embryos, we keep in embryos in 37 degrees Celsius with some atmosphere of CO2.
That's a very interesting insight. I had to deal with tanks with nitrogen, of course, which is crazy low, minus 196 degrees below Celsius, as a rule, right? And but I never thought it's that complicated. Well, obviously it is. Do you remember your first embryo creation you did yourself?
Yeah.
Do you?
Of it's unforgettable, as I think for every embryologist.
All right, can you tell us about it?
Just you actually you are so nervous when like you have this responsibility to do your first treatment for patient, and like your hands are shaking, but they should not. And of course you remember like how many eggs. It was like 19 eggs. I suppose it was ICSI fertilization. We transferred 2 embryos for patient, like and I remember I was very disappointed that she got pregnant, but it was like normal pregnancy and not the pregnancy with twins. And I was, come on, we put 2 embryos, why not?
So you were disappointed, right?
Yeah. And then my teacher, like embryologist, she's saying, come on, but it's good because like the single fetus pregnancies are safe, and you know that she will get kid, this woman. So it's very good job that and actually, yes, in a year, I think I understand that twins are very dangerous pregnancy, and it was good. But I remember like this. It was like yesterday that I was very disappointed. Why not twins?
You have very high expectations, Ola. I like that. And since then, since the very first embryo creation you did yourself, how many embryos you create a week right now?
Like I will say before war,
Yeah,
'cause not
pre-war.
now.
Mhm.
Yeah, pre-war. It was around per day. It's because we have really big team of embryologists in our clinic. It's like 7 people. But usually some of us like to do some part of a job. Someone likes to vitrify the embryo. Someone like to collect eggs, and I like to do fertilization. So mostly ICSI like was performing by myself. So it's uh, like 4 or 5 fertilization per day, and actually patient can have 2-3 cells, or they can have like 20 cells. So it's hard to tell. But
Mm, where to keep all the embryos you created? I mean, obviously in liquid nitrogen in a special medical tank, but how long can you keep them preserved? Is it like for weeks, months, years, maybe?
usually, like uh, like for now, it's our strategy to do treatments. Then all embryos that we get from patient, we freeze. It's because of some hormones, and it's not so effective to transfer embryos directly in this like cycle of stimulation. So that's why we freeze, I think, like 70 or 80% of all embryos for patients. And if to say for how long we can keep it can be, I don't know, 100 years. It
100 years.
doesn't.
You just said 100 years.
No, yeah, one. I think it's
But no one lived
like,
lived that long, I think.
but it's a question. We do not have some like experience day for embryos in liquid nitrogen. It's hard to tell. For now, the longest like freezing period it's 27 years.
27 years. So
Yeah,
so a couple they freezed an embryo, and after 27 years they did
um,
in vitro. That's correct.
no, it's actually it was story from USA. Because like for example, if we have 20 cells from one woman, and for example we have 15 or 10 embryos for this couple, so they use 2 or 3 or 4 embryos, and they have like additional 8 that they will never use. Yeah, so they just we just need to keep it in the liquid nitrogen. So some couple just donate this embryo for like such anonymous donation. So patient who couples who do not have like eggs or sperm, they need this donation. They can just come to clinic and ask for just already like freezed embryo. And it was stories that one couple from USA, they just came to clinic and say we want kid, and they transfer one embryo, they become pregnant, it was baby girl, and it was 25 years of freezing this embryo. And then they came for second donation, and it was like embryo sister to this one, and it already was 27. So it's like even story like
Wow.
this.
Well, we're already living in the future, right? Elon Musk sent us to Mars.
Actually,
We're ready.
if to just to fill the tanks with nitrogen, it can be eternity actually.
Really? So a cell can live inside the liquid nitrogen for 100 years.
No,
You
yeah,
you
they
think
just
so?
freeze and yeah.
Wow. Well, can you believe how's that even possible? That's crazy. Just blew my mind. I honestly thought you could keep it freezed for like, no, not 2 weeks, but a few months, maybe a year. But you are telling for 100 years, and
Mm,
we cannot measure that yet because probably this is a new procedure, but haven't been yet like that deeply
yeah.
discovered. So for the future generations, to discover that.
Yeah, actually, we have even some countries just have some specific laws for such a case. For example, in Spain, I think they cannot keep oocyte more than 20 or 25 years, even like if this oocyte was donated or whatever. Yeah, so they even put some limits now not to keep them.
Well, they obviously have reasons for that. I know Spain is a big hub for patients and for clinics. So many clinics out there doing in vitro, but they don't do surrogacy, or do they?
In
Not sure.
Spain, I think I'm
I
not
don't.
sure. Yeah, I
No,
think no.
no. It's mostly banned inside EU, European Union, right?
No, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, about IVF, about in vitro, how do you think? What are the tendencies? Those rates are related to fertility rates. Are those rising or going down? Are people looking for IVF more and more or less, or you don't see any tendency here from your experience?
If to say like we have, I think from year to year we have more and more requests for such a treatment, and it's alarming. But actually, maybe it's normal because it's a new field of medicine, and I think just people start to understand that it's okay. It's good procedure. Not like or even religion say sometimes that we perform some evil job here, but no,
we won't go there.
Yeah, with years, I think people just easy taking this procedure for themselves, and of course, with years we have higher, like how to say,
people are getting
higher
more
age.
educated. Okay.
Yeah, and more educated, yes, but the age of people who wants to become parents are just rising. Yeah, you
Really?
do not want to have kids and 25 when you are young and you want just to explore the world and to study and to work. So we have this problem with age a little bit. It's effect. So we have much more requests, but actually, if you are asking about effectiveness of this treatment, it's also, I think, becomes more higher as a year. We start to understand better our reproductive system and all these processes about eggs, sperm, embryos. So yeah, it's developed so much.
You mentioned age. What age women are eligible to go for in vitro? I mean, probably to some certain age, right?
In Ukraine, we have recommendation not to do transfer of donor embryos after 52 years, because I think after 45 years, we cannot even get some eggs, because it's our biology, unfortunately, that with certain with some age, like we do not have egg in woman, but woman even in 50 years can carry the pregnancy. So that's why it can be, we can use oocyte, donor oocyte or donor embryos. So yes, we have some strict rules, 52 year, not to transfer any embryos.
Ola, is it just a recommendation or it's a compulsory not to do that?
No, in Ukraine it's just recommendation. We do not have like such strict law, but mostly doctors never do such things.
And what about other countries?
For example, it's now in Greece, they also have 52, but as I heard news, they changed it to 54. I don't know why, but they give 2 years more. So In Israel, I think 55 or something like that. So 50 is this point.
And what I was curious about, can LGBT couples go for in vitro?
If you are talking in Ukraine, so answer will be no. But for example, in Ukraine, this treatment can ask single woman, so just to ask for donor sperm and even donor egg or donor embryos for a single woman it's easier. So actually, in Ukraine, for example, same-sex couples, women can easily go through treatment, but for gay couple, we do not have such permission. But in Europe, a lot of countries, I say, they allow to do it. For example, in Britain, because we have a lot of examples in Britain. In USA, it's allowed. In Israel, I think in Israel allowed any form of IVF treatment. They are like do not have bans for any procedure. So yeah.
I miss that country. I miss Israel, Tel Aviv, clinics there. I won't
And
mention.
actually,
Sorry.
Actually, if we are talking, for example, for of course, for gay couples, we need to do some surrogacy program, of course. And for example, if in Spain they do not allow surrogacy program, it's impossible to do such treatment. But for women, they have like some cool procedures, and you can get oocyte from one woman and couple, and you can transfer this embryo created with donor sperm to another woman partner. So actually, they will be both divided to this kid. One will give oocyte, and one will carry the pregnancy. It's actually very cool. I like this procedure so much. I hope it will be allowed in much more countries. So let's see.
And I know it's also allowed in the United States, but probably not all the states in particular.
Yeah, not.
I mean, obviously, United States is a different country. They have different ruling there, and so some states allow it, some does not.
Yeah, if you are talking about, for example, California, you can do whatever you want. It's legal, commercial. Surrogacy, you can do donation is allowed, like easy. For example, in New York, you can do. In New York, you can do surrogacy, but they like they call it real surrogacy. So it can be done insemination for women. For example, if gay couple wants to get kid, it will be done insemination. She will carry the baby, and like this couple will have kids. So like surrogacy will have her own oocyte. Yeah. In Ukraine, we are allowed to do just gestation surrogacy when surrogacy not genetically related to this baby that she is carrying. So it's different even type of surrogacy.
Yeah, I know some people, some countries, they also differ. Some have anonymous donor, and some have like open information about donors and so on. So it's different. So patients obviously looking for the best country which has the most flexible rules about each IVF procedure, and of course price. I mean, I think many patients moving their material from, for example, from the States to Ukraine before war, because the procedure is the same, quality is the same, but the price is obviously cheaper in Ukraine.
Yeah, I think after my traveling in Europe, I even will say that the quality is much higher than in Europe. It's
In
strange
Ukraine.
to tell it. Yes.
Nice.
We have, I think, better equipment. We are like we are really crazy to do like all right, like this ventilation system, like gas system for incubators. I think we are on a level of Great Britain and Ireland, I think, but mostly in Europe, I didn't see for now like clinics that can like compare to Ukrainian clinic. It's crazy to say it, but yeah.
That's a good to hear, Ola. What inspires you to be an embryologist?
It's I will say it's a beauty of this biological process. It's strange to, I think, strange to hear, but it's really amazing how embryo develops and that you can see it. I couldn't understand. I could not understand how, from, for example, blastocyst I see in 9 months, for example, babies. I still cannot understand how this is happening. But just to look how develop fertilized eggs to become blastocysts, it's amazing. I don't know. Even if you know what genes are like turning on these embryos, what like proteins working in these processes, you're just looking and wow, it's hard to become human actually. Yes, it's a lot of work even after we born, like to education and study, but it's even hard to become just human in biological way.
Which education, what education an embryologist should have? I mean, obviously it's biology, but maybe some in particular, it's like embryology faculty or something, I don't know.
In Ukraine, you just need to have biological high education. We do not have universities that prepare, like none of us in diplomas do not have this writing, embryologist. No, I'm molecular biologist, for example. Like I was working as a genetic engineer, and so it's just like I understand good this biological processes and so on, but you need to learn how to work with your hands, because actually
Obviously.
it's for now it's more like some kind of art, but you need to do it by your hands. So it's like embroidery.
Really? Yeah, obviously.
As I say,
Your hands
embroidery or knitting.
shouldn't shake.
So, yeah, handmade.
You're doing a great job, Ola. Yeah, and you like embroidering. I know it's a hobby for you.
It's like when someone's selling, for example, dress, and it's written handmade, and price is just so huge about
Rocket high, right?
So so some babies also are handmade with much. So I would say with much love they was made, because not only parents love them but also embryologists.
It's just a pure magic, pure magic. What does it take for a person to become a good embryologist? So except not shaky hands and education, what else do you think?
I think good nerve system. You need to be calm.
Probably because
like,
you're working in teams and you have to be very socialized.
No, yeah. Also, it's not a place for some impulsive person, or because when we move in the lab, in this lab room, you need to every minute you need to see like other person. You need to run or go fast. You just like slowly, very calm, and so and with very good nerve system to speak with doctors, to like to deal with some working stuff. For example, you get 10 eggs, but just 2 of them mature, and you're thinking, what, come on, what I should do? And like, I will say it's very stressful job. It's really,
I can imagine. And do you meet patients in person as an embryologist?
In Ukraine, we do not have such practice like to speak with patient, because mostly we do not have medical education. We have some law in Ukraine that you cannot make some consultation with patient, because just like doctors can do it. So we can talk with patient in the presence of doctors, but I think my first patients that I was talking to, they was my friends. So a lot of babies was like done for my friends, and it's also some cases that I will never forget, because it's sometimes they say in truth that doctor do like it's prohibited to doctor to do some treatment for friends or relatives. It's much more pressure. It's so stressful. And
is it prohibited by law or by local clinics?
In Ukrainian, no. I think, and it's just like a recommendation.
All right.
It's really so hard. For example, in Europe, they have some rules. I think that you cannot work with your own material. In scientific fields, for example, or in medicine, like what I mean, if for example, scientists working with stem cells, he cannot work with his own stem cells from blood or whatever. They have some rules. But for example, like I was undergoing, like we will call it social freezing. Yes, I freeze my biological material for my future. So, and I was performing fertilization by myself for my own eggs after egg collection,
which is not recommended.
So I think yes, in Europe it will be like yeah, definitely not recommended. But for me it was important just to see my eggs and to freeze my embryos, even because I was doing like everything in this treatment. So,
and obviously you have a right to do that. You're a human being, and you can do whatever to your body, Ukraine, whatever you want.
For example, like if to say in vitro fertilization, it's recommended just if patient and couple has some medical reasons, yes, for this, or some illness, or if they cannot get pregnant after 1 or 2 years. In different countries, different rules. So we always like you cannot do like just you wanted to do this procedure. It must be medical reasons. But we also in Ukraine saying, and I think in all over the world, that more popular because and for example, if you freeze eggs in 30 years, they will be much higher quality than in 40 years. And if you want to become mother in 40, 45 years, it's very hard to become pregnant with your own cells, because they they are worse quality, and it's not so many of them. But if you have frozen eggs from your embryos and much less probability of some genetic disorders or so on. So yes, actually we are now freezing like eggs of a lot of soldiers, also freeze sperm cells. We do not have a good as to say law and legislation of these processes, because for example, if soldier will be killed in the war, we do not know what to do with the sperm. If he has a wife, so probably yes, it will be allowed to use the sperm, but we need, I think we will need to change this law and just to write that it's possible and yeah, how to do it in a good way.
I think people who watch this and who has some relation to law making in Ukraine, some maybe jurists, and they should definitely very carefully check this instrument for soldiers, for troops who freeze their sperm, and oocytes as well, because we know women fight for freedom too. They should definitely be secured in this particular case. So they freeze their material and go into war.
Yeah, we actually, like, I was making a post in Facebook also, that maybe for now the better recommendation is just in this regular like documents. When you freeze, you just sign in some papers. So just to write, in the case of death, for example, you allowed to use the sperm cell or eggs for anonymous donation, yes, just to write it, or that your wife or husband can just making some decision about this.
Yeah, just like a last, like a last
yeah.
will. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better to write it now. And I think if we will have such a case, we will definitely change some laws to allow this, because yeah, I think it's important.
It's very important.
Yeah, it was also a big discussion in the first weeks of the war, that why we cannot do like a big sperm donor bank, yes, for all our soldiers. Like, of course, in Ukraine there will be women who will wanted to have some donor sperm. Yeah, they can choose like sperm of real heroes. So, but it's legally, it's very hard to do now. But for like individual cases, it's better to write some marks about this.
Thank you for your answer. And I think Oля, we're gonna wrap it up here, and just your last question, maybe your advice for those who wish to be an embryologist. Any suggestions, any advices for that person you can share with us?
Just to study hard, genetics, biology, and yeah.
Know how to differentiate all the chromosomes by eye, right?
No, it's for a genetician. Let's keep it.
All right.
No, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking this time with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your questions. Yeah.
I wish you easy flight tomorrow and happy journey. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye bye, Oля.